Proton Iriz. It's the 1.6 version. It's a nice little hatchback for you to drive around town, and it's been improved by Proton. Proton has improved the Iriz, which you see behind me. Externally, you don't see any real improvements. You only see that the chrome strip on top of the grille, below the bonnet on the grille, has now turned black. Everything else is the same. You get everything. The major changes is underneath and more up front, and the rear muffler has been redesigned to make it slightly quieter. What it has is basically a new subframe up front with 3-point mounting instead of the previous 4-point mounting. So this car, according to Proton, is actually more refined, quieter, and because of that the drive should be more pleasurable. What the mounting does is actually make sure that this car has some mechanical refinement rather than very little mechanical refinement as previously. The thing about the Proton Iriz is that before this revision, before this enhanced edition, I did not like driving it because it was harsh. It sounded harsh from the front. It had vibration coming through the steering wheel and even the gear shift, and those little things actually ruin the pleasure of driving, especially in a car which has a very nice chassis. Driving this car, no problem at all. It still is very nice, especially in this 1.6 liter spec. It has grippy wide tires. Even the CVT gearbox has had a bit of reprogramming this time around. It now feels like the Persona. It doesn't have a CVT gearbox that just let's hold at 5,000 RPM peak power and make noise the whole way through while you are accelerating. It just has that step up type of CVT programming, which actually holds peak torque at about 3,000 RPM, 3,500 RPM before climbing all the way to the red line. So basically you don't get that. Imagine doing 0 to 100 kilometers per hour and the engine goes Wah! You're going to go deaf after maybe 100 runs, 10 runs, who knows. So with this new car, with the step-up CVT, it's refined. Refinement is actually the key to having a pleasurable long-distance drive. And with these two refinements, I think Proton has nailed it in some ways with the Iriz. The flaws, that engine, it's still a Campro underneath. All the revisions, what Proton says is a new 1.6 liter engine with all the variable valve timing and whatever intake flow, whatever thingamajig, but it still is basically underneath a Campro engine. Granted, in 2000, when they first had the engine, it was quite okay. Now in 2017, it is barely cutting it in terms of mechanical refinement. So of course Proton has did what they had to do. They just tried to smother the problem, which they did. So this engine and this drivetrain now is actually quite on par in terms of engine refinement compared to the other manufacturers. In terms of handling, however, this chassis is fabulous with this nice big 1.6 liter torquey, normally aspirated engine. It actually drives very well in the twisties, on the windies, in corner. Brakes are good. Steering feel is surprisingly very good. Off center it might be a bit empty, but once you are committed into the corner, it feels very nice. It's nice. You can trail brake into the corner. You can just balance it on the power because it's a normally aspirated engine. One of the benefits is that you can modulate the throttle up to you. That last 5% will actually give you that actual last 5% of performance, unlike a turbocharged engine. Of course, it's a bit pure in terms of driving because you've got to wring the engine out, make it scream. The other question is, how does it drive around town? And in and around town, with a CVT gearbox, it's actually pretty efficient. It is surprisingly fuel saving compared to previous Protons. Maybe then actually Proton have improved fuel consumption efficiency by a fair bit ever since the new models came out. The Persona was very good, the Saga was very good, the new Saga, this car is now good. Drivability in town, well, I think the CVT is a bit hesitant at first, like maybe it's on the throttle response, but it's not a big problem. I think if they were to spend a bit more time in tuning the thing for the initial acceleration, the 0 to 5 km, make it a bit smoother, it'll be nicer. But aside from that, it's all good around town. The air conditioning is Proton, which means it's cold compared to even any other car, the other car manufacturer. What? Prodo? Okay, not as cold as this. It's still a Proton. Air conditioning is, yeah, tip top. It's comfortable. The driving position is nice. Can't complain about it. Space, good. Boot size, adequate. It's good enough. Seats inside, you get the Martini Racing kind of stripes. You know, you get the nice blue and the red and all the lines and all in the middle of the seat fabric. That's the biggest change inside. Aside from that, it's all the same. Nothing rattles. Everything seems to be properly screwed. I'm not so fussy about shut lines, cut lines or anything like that in a car that costs a mere 60,000 ringgit or less if you get it at a discount. So,
okay, before I get all excited on the Iriz, I thought I should take it out on a road trip to see how it really performs. Short drives around the city and also short stints on the highway do not truly show off a car's capabilities, and so I decided to go somewhere with it.
So we're in Lumut, and then what the heck's a Lumut water hill? Water hill. Hill, no water. So, right now I'm in Lumut, Perak, and decided to drive the Proton Iriz down here to check out its on-road performance, the usual trunk roads, the highways, and basically see how it performs. So what I found out is that the Iriz 1.6 CVT performs pretty okay, except that when you're on a highway above the speed limit by about 20, 30, 40 or 50 kilometers per hour, it tends to be a bit boomy, which means that after a certain speed, it's loud, it's noisy. Engine is still a constant tone even to the red line. It is not a harsh. I think it's because of the new mountings. The new mountings actually cause the car to be a bit more refined than usual, than as it was before. It's quite a good thing. Helps keep things a bit more refined than previously. Ride and handling for 4 people in the car, very okay. Not an issue, not a problem. There seems to be ample poke, ample power on the highways and the B roads to just cruise. On the B roads, bump absorption, ride, all seems to be more than adequate. I would only think that in terms of if you're really going very fast, and then it gets to be a bit noisier than usual, but if you're talking about city driving, town driving, after what I've tried out, it's actually kind of okay.
It wasn't the engine noise getting to me, but the road noise at high speeds. This means that Proton's engineers did solve the NVH issues from the powertrain and the drivetrain, but somehow not much on the road noise intrusion levels at higher speeds. This got me thinking whether or not the Iriz deserves the praise I had been giving it earlier. It requires some deep thought and lots of coffee.
When I first started off with the Iriz 1.6, I was basically harping about how good it handles, how mechanically refined it was, and basically how good the car is for the price. At around 60,000 ringgit for the Iriz 1.6, it does everything exceptionally well. I think the CVT programming and the new engine mountings have actually cured a lot of the NVH issues with the Iriz, and this one has better refinement overall. It is still quite boomy at about 30 to 40 kilometers per hour above the national speed limit, but if you drive it normally, like what you're supposed to drive, it's no problem. It's actually quite refined, mechanically refined. Ride is refined. Gearbox is also smooth enough. Even though it's CVT, as I said, it's a step-up CVT, so it does its job very well. It holds at peak torque, not at peak horsepower. What more can you ask for a car? You're talking about ride, handling, how good it performs in corners. Yes, it does. But as transport, carried 4 people, me, my wife, kid, and my mum, with luggage all the way here in Lumut, Setiawan, Sri Manjung, Perak, with relative comfort. I think that's all you need in a car. Something that's actually comfortable for you to travel from point A to point B. And if I'm saying that this car does it well, good enough, I can't complain.